going to play a little game of true or false, fantasy or reality is what we used to call it. But instead, we're going to play a little game of buy or sell. Rafael Devers had a press conference and basically said, I ain't moving off third base. I'm a third baseman. I won't play DH. I won't play anywhere else. Alex Bregman was just signed. So how's this going to work out? Buy or sell, George? Devers will start more games at third than Bregman this season. Is that a buy or sell?
Yeah, Devers is a horrific third baseman. All right, he's bad. I think he ranks dead last in the league here. I think Cora is going to talk to Devers. Apparently, they are close. He goes, listen, you got to move, buddy. I'm sorry. You got to move. We're a better team with Bregman at third.
I think he's dug in here, man. I don't know. I know that there was a report a few days ago that they were talking about it and, sort of working things out. But I think in the end, cooler heads will prevail. But I don't know when that's going to be. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to say that Devers starts like 90 games at third base this season. And I think that'll probably be the compromise here. I think that Bregman will start some. Devers will start some. Bregman's still a Gold Glove third baseman at this stage of his career. It doesn't really add up. The other thing that happened is over the course of Big Papi's career, he moved off first base. He went to DH. And Big Papi was Devers, right? I mean, pretty similar in stature there. But Devers just seems to be really dug in on this. I think if it was going to happen, George, we would know by now. And it hasn't. We just heard that it may. So I am going to buy. I don't think Devers plays 150 at third base or even 140 or anything like that. But I do think he plays more than Bregman at third. I think that they have a compromise where they play both.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome in. We are live with you here on SportsGrid. It is a Thursday night Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh with you for the next 2 hours on a massive day of college basketball, undoubtedly taking center stage. Right now, we have Houston finishing up their game against Colorado. It is a cover for the Buffs, but Houston will advance in the Big 12 tournament as they're going to play BYU, who beat already a ranked team today, a higher-ranked team, in fact, in Iowa State. The SEC tournament has been fantastic thus far. Wade Taylor is having an incredible second half as Texas A&M, a favorite against Texas, trails by 1 with about a minute and a half to go in regulation. We have Boise State and San Diego State playing right now as well out in the Mountain West. We have a lot more that is to come for tonight's college basketball board. The picks from me are out in I don't want to say abundance because I've been betting all day. There's been a lot of good spots. Shout out Trevon Brazil, who's been fantastic. Root in this Trey Johnson as we could use, I think it's 4 more points before this game officially buttons up over the 18 and a half. But there are still 3 more for me, a couple of sides, a player prompt, and I think there could be some additions. You got that March fever going around right now. But the big news, the biggest news of the day came from Duke, Georgia Tech, where arguably the country's best player, the Wooden Award favorite, the future first overall selection, Cooper Flagg, after a very slow start, rolled his ankle. Bad. Looked bad. Left on a wheelchair, came back to the bench. Every expectation is Cooper Flagg's ACC tournament is over. Those expectations, though, are not due to reporting, but that is just due to common sense. Duke does not need this tournament, and it potentially will do nothing for Duke. It is on the board that Duke winning the ACC tournament and Auburn not winning the SEC tournament still would result in Auburn as the number 1 overall seed. If Duke loses at any point in this ACC tournament, even had they lost to Georgia Tech, I don't think they're going to be jumped for the 2nd overall seed. And again, at that point, we're splitting hairs because Duke's long been solidified on the 1 line. So the big picture outlook, not a lot of panic right now. National championship market, plus 350 across the board for Duke and Auburn. FanDuel Sportsbook, giving the two guys who have, or the two teams that have been at the top, that exact same slot. The Wooden Award race has moved a bit. Minus 195 now on Cooper Flagg, plus 150 on Janai Broom. That's interesting. Flagg obviously closes out potentially his last performance before votes will be cast in very underwhelming fashion. Not just an early exit, but 2 points on 1 of 7 shooting against Georgia Tech in 15 minutes won't inspire much confidence. But Flagg was a considerable favorite before today got underway. I think it is possible that Janai Broom storms back now and finds himself the Wooden Award winner if Auburn ends up winning the SEC tournament. So, and with Janai Broom playing well, of course, I think we could see that flip. Absolutely so. For Duke, though, now, if you just kind of go timeline-wise, the earliest their next game where you would think about Cooper Flagg playing, because again, I think everybody would agree, can't send him out there in the ACC tournament again, would it be a week from today? Against the 16 seed? Probably not. If Cooper Flagg's not going to play again in the ACC tournament, are you going to throw him out there against the 16? Maybe. Minimal work. I mean, if he's healthy, I'm sure he'll want to be out there, right? If you're Duke, I don't know if you want to go right back into the fire on a Saturday or Sunday against an 8-9 UConn, Gonzaga. We'll see who, it ultimately is, right? But those are two of the teams we've seen tossed around as the potential dangerous 8 seeds this season. If Flagg does not have to play or is unable to play, probably is the better way to put it, even in that round of 32, you have 2 weeks until the Sweet 16. Without Flagg, I think Duke would still be booked as a favorite, albeit much less, against any potential round 2 opponent. If they are able to get through and advance to the Sweet 16 in 2 weeks, if Flagg isn't back by then, the college career could be over. It's possible. It's very, very possible. That's big picture. That's long term. We're waiting for more information. Short term, UNC outright bettors in the ACC tournament. All right. 30-1, couple of wins later, plus 950. Duke, despite advancing, down to minus 210. I don't know if I like Duke to finish out the ACC tournament as winners with the absence of Cooper Flagg. In fact, I don't. I actually now think North Carolina will beat this team. I think North Carolina is playing well. I think North Carolina is due for a bit of a break with how Duke has shot against them. I know Duke is great offensively. I do. If you are North Carolina, you hope that's a bad shooting night for the Blue Devils was not wasted away on Georgia Tech. But Duke, when they run up against UNC so far this season in 2 meetings, I mean, it is bucket after bucket after bucket. 3 after 3 after 3. Offense could come a little bit more difficult. With Cooper Flagg out for that game, that's the expectation. And at that point, I think North Carolina gets the job done. And then you get to a final where the expectation is you will see either Louisville or Clemson, both teams playing tonight. Louisville against Stanford as a 10.5-point favorite. Clemson against SMU as a 6.5-point favorite. Texas, by the way, as the SEC tries to get the entire conference into the tournament, is going to the free throw line with an opportunity to extend here and see if this win against Texas A&M, if they get it, would be enough to secure their seat in the dance. Although this one is far from over. When we get back, tonight's card, college basketball picks, the latest around the sport, as well as tonight's NBA card with a huge game between the Lakers and the Bucks. That's next.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back with you right here. It is Game Time Decisions. A little Turtleneck Thursday. Somebody had to do it. We're going to overtime in Texas A&M. Trey Johnson rooted in. Need 4 more, so they're giving us 5 more, if you know what I'm talking about. Also, MAAC, M-A-A-C, come on out. Gales up 10 early on Manhattan. If you didn't think that update was coming in, you're out of your mind. Let's get to tonight's card, and then we'll go from there. Iowa, Illinois, spotted this one yesterday, knew it was going to be the case. I really like the Hawkeyes to hang here against the Illini. And as much as I understand that Illinois off of that Duke loss has turned it around, and it involved beating Iowa by double digits, by 20 at home, that number was 10.5 when they had met. We're now on a neutral court, and we're looking at 10.5, right? I think what we have ourselves here is a nice little spot to buy in on Iowa. Up and down they go type of offense. Settled in, of course, having already played a game. I like my chances tonight with Iowa to stay inside this 10.5. I think they could jump early on Illinois. And then let's see how the Illini fare if that ends up the case. I'll take the 10.5 points with Iowa. Player prop for those who are in the mix in the prop market, college basketball style. Give me Norchad Omier for 15+. This is at minus 105. Clear and obvious bounce back spot for the big man. Consecutive games now without 15. Regular season finale against Houston, bottled up, only with 13. Yesterday against K-State, bottled up even worse on 14 attempts, just 12 points. You have to go back really far to find 3 consecutive games, if you can even find it, in fact. I actually don't think you can, for Norchad Omier to have 3 straight without 15 points. Clear and obvious bounce back spot. I think he gets it against Texas Tech. I will say, though, don't go crazy, Norchad Omier. We do have a Texas Tech plus 425 outright ticket for the Big 12 tournament. So, of course, already invested in the outcome of that one. Big 12 tournament, late night, it's going to be Arizona and Kansas. For those of you who were with us on Saturday on betting above the rim, the best bet was the Jayhawks laying 3.5 at home to Arizona. Tonight, Arizona, Kansas, run it back. I'm not running it back. Give me Arizona at minus 2.5. It looks like this number is climbing, and I agree. Kansas won and covered for me. I didn't leave overwhelmingly impressed in that game. Great closing stretch, but Arizona battled the full 40 in a spot that was very difficult for them. Arizona is a team who's only, since they kind of turned their season around, the only team who beat them off a loss was Houston. That's a different caliber of opponent. You know what I think about the Cougars. I think Arizona bounces back here against Kansas, a little bit of revenge, and they win this game by 6, 7, 8 points here tonight against Kansas. That's where I am at right now on the college board. Again, I know it may seem a tick light. There were a few looks. Kentucky, Oklahoma under. That's been dropping. Gets shaky. Missouri, Miss State over. That's been climbing. We have the chance to dive in live. I was tempted by USC. And I will, of course, be rooting in Villanova tonight as we have that ticket to win the Big East outright. Huge, huge win and comeback earlier today for Marquette. Give credit to St. John's. I faded that team once again with Butler at plus 12.5. I believe it was 3-3, and then it was 18-3. Johnny's rolled. They now meet Marquette in the next round. I'll probably fade St. John's again. I think the Golden Eagles have themselves a chance to win that tournament. I am invested on Nova. I was worried about Marquette's opener against Xavier with good reason, certainly. Let me just tell you where I'm at on the NBA slate tonight. There are a few NBA topics we have to get into tonight, including Oklahoma City, after their win against the Boston Celtics, are now the NBA title favorites. I think anywhere you look, including FanDuel, who seem to be the last holdout. OKC is a title favorite. How? Why? Do I agree? We will get into all of that in just a little bit. But Bucks-Lakers is the big one. And it looks like I could be head-to-head tonight with some of the crew that we have stopping by. Won't be the first time, won't be the last time. Give me the over in Bucks-Lakers. The Lakers still remain very banged up in this basketball game. Of course, no LeBron James, but in this matchup, as important, no Rui Hachimura, no Jackson Hayes. Giannis coming off of a 19-point performance against the Pacers, which I think for him in that loss should feel largely unacceptable. I think you see a lot of consistent offense for the Bucks, led by Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yes, the Lakers' defense is good. When the Lakers' defense is healthy, it's not even close to that. They are missing 3 starters heading into this game. I do think the Lakers will be better offensively, though, in this game because Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves were 11 of 40 from the field against the Brooklyn Nets. They were 4 of 15 from 3. Both guys way too good to play at that level. It's going to rock the Lakers offensively a little bit when you have your top guys shooting without any efficiency, and that is what they had against Brooklyn. I think the Bucks offense looks better. I think the Lakers offense looks better, and I think this game can soar, quite frankly, which I know we have only really seen once or twice since Luka has arrived. I think we see it here in Milwaukee. Under the radar, Matas Buzelis over 13.5 points. Buzelis, I am expecting Josh Giddey to be out for this game. Buzelis, the last time that happened, took 17 attempts from the field, including 7 from beyond the arc, scoring 17 points. Give me Buzelis for 14. We'll update you on the live action and some Sports Million Pick'em next.
Play a little game of true or false, fantasy or reality is what we used to call it. But instead, we're going to play a little game of buy or sell. Rafael Devers had a press conference and basically said, I ain't moving off third base. I'm a third baseman. I won't play DH. I won't play anywhere else. Alex Bregman was just signed, so how's this going to work out? Buy or sell, George? Devers will start more games at third than Bregman this season. Is that a buy or sell?
Yeah, Devers is a horrific third baseman. He's bad. I think he ranks dead last in the league here. I think Cora is going to talk to Devers. Apparently, they are close. He just, listen, you got to move, buddy. I'm sorry. You got to move. We're a better team with Bregman at third.
I think he's dug in here, man. I don't know. I know that there was a report a few days ago that they were talking about it and sort of working things out, but I think in the end, cooler heads will prevail. But I don't know when that's going to be. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to say that Devers starts like 90 games at third base this season. And I think that'll probably be the compromise here. I think that Bregman will start some, Devers will start some. Bregman's still a Gold Glove third baseman at this stage of his career. It doesn't really add up. The other thing that happened is over the course of Big Papi's career, he moved off first base, he went to DH, and Big Papi was Devers, right? I mean, pretty similar in stature there. But Devers just seems to be really dug in on this. I think if it was going to happen, George, we would know by now. And it hasn't. We just heard that it may. So I am going to buy. I don't think Devers plays 150 at third base or even 140 or anything like that. But I do think he plays more than Bregman at third. I think that they have a compromise where they play both.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Following all of the action here on Game Time Decisions, Kevin Walsh on this Thursday night. We do have to try and figure out, though, what are the options over on Sports Million Pick'em. Let's find out.
Happy Thursday, everyone. We've got a loaded slate out there in college basketball. So, Tom, let's jump into our Sports Millions pick'ems. Now, I've had 2 days where I've gone 0-2. You went 1-1 yesterday. Let's get these picks firing today. Let's both sweep it.
Yeah, yesterday for the LSU-Mississippi State game, got there with Josh Hubbard, didn't get there with Cam Carter from LSU. I want to say he was close. He shot 4 of 12 overall, 2 of 7 from downtown. It simply didn't get there. Let's turn to today. Louisville Cardinals going up against the Stanford Cardinals, the matchup of the Birds. Love what we see from Louisville on offense. They love to shoot the three. The points can come early and often for them. So let's turn to Terrence Edwards Jr., higher than 17.5 points. Over his last 10 games, he's been over this mark 6 times. We see him routinely pushing towards that 20 mark. He even touched 30 in one of these games. I think the pace will be there in terms of the scoring. Again, those threes can come early and often. He shoots the ball a lot from three. I'm not going to say it's super consistent, but seeing 6, 7, 8, 9, sometimes 11 three-point attempts is certainly very favorable when we just need to get over 17.5 points. On the other side, Jalen Blakes for Stanford. We see some of these recent games over 20 points. Some of these other recent games less than 5 points. So I'm going to take him lower than 12.5 points. Why? He doesn't shoot the three ball a ton. He also has been getting in a lot of foul trouble. So between the shooting inconsistency, not a lot of threes, and again, the fouls really limit his playing time. I don't know if we're going to see him out there for the entire game. So we'll take Edwards Jr. higher than 17.5 and Blake's lower than 12.5 points. Joe, what do you got?
Okay, I'm going to roll here with the Nevada Wolfpack taking on the Colorado State Rams. Now, looking at Nevada, Nevada has lost a ton of games here in the Mountain West, but by tight numbers there. In Colorado, well, they've been rolling hot, winning their last 7 rolling into this matchup. Is this time for Nevada to actually win one of these tight battles? It just might be. And if Nick Davidson steps up in this matchup, I do think they have every ability of pulling off the win as the underdog. Now, Nick Davidson's point totals coming in at 15.5, and I will take him to that over. When we're looking at Nick Davidson here, 2 matchups versus Colorado State this season. In the first matchup, he didn't fare well, only putting up 13 points, and he's averaging right on 15.6 points per game on the season. But when we look at him in that last matchup versus the Colorado State Rams, he was able to put 22 points up on the board, and he was making those attempts from deep. He only hit 1 of 5, and if he has a better shooting night here, I do think he can replicate what he did in that first meeting. Or in the second meeting there. So I'll take Nick Davidson higher than 15.5 points in this game. And then when I look at Colorado State, I'm going to look here at Clifford. Clifford has a number of 19.5, and I know this looks high for his points when he's only averaging right around 18 points per game. But again, in that first meeting, he had those struggles putting up 16 points versus Nevada. In the second meeting, again, he put up 22 as well. He was hitting strong from deep, 3 of 3. When we look at Nevada, we know they're going to play in the zone, and they're going to force Colorado State here to throw up those threes. And I do think Clifford can get those threes on the board today. So I'll take him higher than 19.5 points in this matchup. 3-time multiplier when you take Davidson and Clifford, both for their points higher. Again, Davidson coming in at 15.5. Clifford coming in at 19.5. Tom, let's get this back on track today. I want to sweep this board today.
Of course, we are in a conference tournament full swings, and we will be back tomorrow with more.
Yeah, we'll see you guys. Enjoy Sport Millions pick'ems, but hey, making picks yourself? Well, Sports Millions has you covered. Head on over to Sports Millions Blitz'em right now and let the computer do the work. Go to sportsmillions.com/Blitz'em to be able to win big prizes without having to make a single pick yourself. That's sportsmillions.com/Blitz'em.
Back with you right here on SportsGrid. Again, great stuff there from Tom, Joe. We're going to talk to Tom in just a couple of minutes here. Tom in the mix NBA style, which we love to see. Mention, over on Sports Million Picking, we got all those options there. Some props tonight for me, Norchad Omier, Matas Buzelis. Try and figure out your higher and lower. We're going to update you on Texas A&M, Texas. Talk to Tom Vecchio next.
to play a little game of true or false, fantasy or reality is what we used to call it. But instead, we're going to play a little game of buy or sell. Rafael Devers had a press conference and basically said, I ain't moving off third base. I'm a third baseman. I won't play DH. I won't play anywhere else. Alex Bregman was just signed, so how's this going to work out? Buy or sell, George? Devers will start more games at third than Bregman this season. Is that a buy or sell?
Yeah, Devers is a horrific third baseman. All right, he's bad. I think he ranks dead last in the league here. I think Cora is going to talk to Devers. Apparently, they are close. Listen, you got to move, buddy. I'm sorry. You got to move. We're a better team with Bregman at third.
I think he's dug in here, man. I don't know. I know that there was a report a few days ago that they were talking about it and, sort of working things out. But I think in the end, cooler heads will prevail. But I don't know when that's going to be. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to say that Devers starts like 90 games at third base this season. And I think that'll probably be the compromise here. I think that Bregman will start some. Devers will start some. Bregman's still a Gold Glove third baseman at this stage of his career. It doesn't really add up. The other thing that happened is over the course of Big Poppy's career, he moved off first base. He went to DH, and Big Poppy was Devers, right? I mean, pretty similar in stature there. But Devers just seems to be really dug in on this. I think if it was going to happen, George, we would know by now. And it hasn't. We just heard that it may. So I am going to buy. I don't think Devers plays 150 at third base or even 140 or anything like that, but I do think he plays more than Bregman at third. I think that they have a compromise when they play both.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, let's play catch-up quickly. Domantas Sabonis out tonight for the Sacramento Kings. Could change some things for those who are looking to bet their game against Golden State. Live juice. Boise State team total over 65.5. 28 first-half points. They shot 2 for 6 from 2 in the first half. Now you hear that? You go, hold on a minute. 6 two-point attempts. 23 of 29 shots came from 3. Sign me up for that volume 10 times out of 10. I'll take my chances that Boise goes down swinging and can get over 65.5 against what is still a very good San Diego State defense. One other update. We're in double overtime now. Never in doubt. It's loading. I can't wait to say it. Just need 2 more points from Trey Johnson. Let's keep getting into it, though. We've got Tom Vecchio here. Always great to have Tom stop by on Game Time Decisions. But, Tom, it is not with perhaps a touch of controversy in the air. A head-to-head, this is usually me versus Coach. It is what it is, but it looks like tonight we are on opposing sides of the total between the Milwaukee Bucks and the LA Lakers.
Yeah, during the commercial break, we were talking, you like the over, I like the under. I don't see this as a spot where the Lakers' game plan would be like, hey, let's turn this into a track meet. Let's try and beat the Bucks. Oh, an average team. They're not the team that they once were, but let's try and beat the Bucks when we don't have LeBron. Let's try and beat them in this track meet up and down. Let's have this game end 130 to 128. Like, I don't think that should be the Lakers' plan. Their defense has been great. Obviously, we have to count for the fact that now LeBron is out. Also, 1 game sample size against Brooklyn. They played much slower with 98.1 possessions. That put them at the bottom 6 of the league. So I don't think they want to turn this into a shootout. Like, the way they keep this close, cover and or win is by limiting the chances against, a healthy Bucks team. So your rebuttal is what?
So I think that's all fair. I think part of it is the Lakers are not only without LeBron, they are also without Rui Hachimura and Jackson Hayes. So that should lead to open season for Giannis. That then, when you're trying to get a full game over, you get very consistent offense, I would imagine, from the Milwaukee side of things, especially with Giannis coming off of a 19-point game. Probably the worst scoring effort he's had relative to minutes played in all of 2025, let's call it. So I like the Milwaukee side of the equation. I also like the Lakers side of the equation because their two lead guys offensively, being Luka and Reeves, I think both are in line to play better. At minimum, at least one of them play much better. In that game up against the Brooklyn Nets, I believe it was 3 of 14 from the field for Reeves, 8 of 26 from Luka Doncic. That's 11 of 40. I think the combined three-point shooting was 4 of 15. So for me, it's almost, Tom, and this is kind of, listen, reasonable minds, it's almost star-based, right? I look at a lot of the key guys, and I think they are in line to have much better offensive games, and that then can lift all boats around them, essentially, if Giannis has it going. If Luka has it going, you're just generating open looks.
I get that. Totally get that. So you would assume that like the Bucks are out in front. They're doing the most of the scoring just because of the ease of path that they have from the lack of players there and bodies there for the Lakers. So they just push this over and do most of the work, and the Lakers are just due for a little bit of bounce back spot, as you like to say, a little bit of positive aggression, just better shooting performances, and thus it pushes over.
I love my bounce back spots. I actually wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers kind of led the charge for a while where Milwaukee goes, it's the Lakers, but it's not LeBron. This happens all the time in the NBA. And then all of a sudden they pick their heads up and like, oh, wait a minute, Luka's still out here. And the Lakers are playing with their hair on fire because J.J. Redick absolutely thrashed them, understandably, for their effort in the game against Brooklyn. And then the best offense is when Giannis is under fire a little bit, because then he truly will just walk to the cup every possession and just lay it in every possession, and that's fantastic for me.
So are you then, is this like a way of saying, like, if the Lakers jump out in front, we're going to get the Bucks -1, -2 at a certain point? Bucks money line? What's their money line right now?
Yeah, so
is there news that we just need to catch up on? Because I see it locked as of now.
Maybe they're giving us the. Oh my gosh! There's an NBA thing that I'm. There's an NBA thing.
Season-ending surgery. Okay.
Yeah. All right. I just can't with the Spurs. I don't want to waste Tom's time with it either. I'll get into that when we want to get into that. I think that we could see. So I lean towards the Lakers. I'll also say this, and this is just kind of. I have multiple outs, right? I can win my bet while being wrong. The Lakers could be atrocious, but Milwaukee goes out there and just has one of their great nights, and the Lakers fold up, and the Lakers are in a really bad spot. I think. It could go the other way, right? The Lakers could come out and just be red hot, and then, again, like Milwaukee's playing from catch-up. So I think it's all on the board. You have at least one other, if not a few picks, also though on the NBA slate?
Yeah, let's go to the Pistons. Cade Cunningham has been awesome. What a fantastic season from them overall, especially where they were over the past few years. But let's take Cade Cunningham over 35.5 points plus assists. I love the fact that he can get there. I'm not going to say totally on points, but we're talking like legitimately 80% of the effort can come from points. It's not to say he's not going to have assists because he always has assists, but him dropping 30 tonight is not going to surprise anyone. If you woke up tomorrow and saw that Cade Cunningham had 30 and 8, you wouldn't be surprised at all. So I love the fact that he can get close to a combined prop, or any player can get close to a combined prop on just points alone. You throw in his usual 7, 8, 9, 12 assists where we can get from him, and I think he's in a really good spot to really just continue a ton of scoring tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, no, look, and I like the way you describe it, right? I think occasionally you'll see SGA PRA number to be 45.5, and you go, well, he scores 40. I mean, not much else going on here, right? So I totally see the approach there. Update, Trey Johnson. I mean, never in doubt, obviously. Easy. Didn't even sweat it. Are you kidding me? Only took double overtime and a billion chances. As Texas, though, does have a legitimate chance to not. Great update, great producing. Boise out of a cannon. Uh-oh. Panic at the disco. Here we go. Like what we're seeing here. Really like what we're seeing here. Tom, how much are you diving back into the NBA? That's my big question for you, though, because I know, of course, look, football chews up so much of the time. I know there's a level of baseball preparation you have to commit yourself to, always keeping tabs on hockey, always keeping tabs on the NBA, but fully getting in the mix. For those that don't know, and let me just say this because it's true, Tom takes a ton of pride. We all do, but you can tell with Tom, he takes a ton of pride in what he does, and he's not going to come out here and just give you, hey, Johnny on the spot over is 1.5, right? So For you, Tom, what's the process been like getting fully back into the NBA?
So this time of year is actually the best just because coaches aren't messing around with rotations, at least for playoff bound teams. Like, I don't care about non-playoff teams signing these players to 10-day contracts, whatever it might be. I don't care about any of that. We're going to see the rotations tighten up. We're going to see that extra player on the bench, his minutes fall off. We're going to see the minutes be concentrated around like a 7 or 8 man rotation, which does generally give us a very high level of consistency. And that's the best time to bet. I don't care earlier in the season when he's playing 20 minutes because it's a blowout and all of a sudden his point prop was 29. He's averaged, 28 over the last 10 games. All of a sudden he's only playing 30 minutes and he only has 18 points. Like, I don't care about that time of year. I care about this time of year when we're getting the highest level of performances from the players on playoff bound teams that we know have to be out there playing a heavy set of minutes. No more messing with rotations. So this is the best time to bet the NBA for playoff bound teams. Don't bet on the Wizards.
Excellent closing thought there. And it does make a lot of sense. You find that consistency in a sport that even the biggest of NBA fans will tell you can be tricky. You end up on a Sixers ticket, and then you go, actually, we forfeit. And you go, wow, I didn't.
That Maxey, those points.
Oh, boy. They're going to shut Paul George down.
Oh, no.
Podcast P, got to tell you, pal. Got to tell you, this stint in Philly, not great. Hey, hate to be controversial on air. Not great, Paul George. We'll be back with Tom Vecchio, Texas A&M, Boise State. A lot happening. We're live with you.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back right here on Game Time Decisions on a Thursday night, and we do have Texas right now up 4 on Texas A&M. Could be huge for Texas when we're talking bubble. Also, with respect to Texas, as somebody holding Tennessee to win the SEC tournament, you're talking the difference between being a 3.5-point favorite for Tennessee and a 10-point favorite if you're Tennessee. I mean, that's legit. So, rooted in Texas here in double overtime. Iowa, Illinois is underway. Again, we're tracking San Diego State and Boise State. I'm tracking Iona Manhattan. I won't make any of you out there track that. We are with Tom Vecchio. Tom, always things in the National Football League that we can get to, but I figure why not ask you as well, tonight on the ice, where are the eyes, if anywhere? Rangers a road favorite in Minnesota, I see.
Yeah, I'm staying away from the Rangers simply due to the fact that I have a bet on them to miss the playoffs, so I'm not going to be pouring in money to the other side. So let's keep – and this is the same thing I said in the previous segment about, like, oh, this is the best time of year to bet on the NBA. Like, I also think it's the best time of the year to bet on the NHL very early in the season because there's a lot of ambiguity in terms of players' roles and lines moving up and down, different power plays, a lot of value in the shot market. This time of season, love betting on teams' money lines, playoff-bound teams that need to win. I do like Vegas tonight, but I'm not saying I like their money line. I'm actually I think that their line for Columbus is actually really, really fair in value at home. Like, Columbus has been awesome at home. They're pouring like 4.5 to 5 goals a game at home. I actually almost want Vegas to lose this game, despite the fact that I think Jack Eichel will score tonight, because Vegas plays Buffalo next, and that's a great matchup for them. So if they lose tonight, I will be all over them against Buffalo. I think that's on Saturday. Regardless of that, let's turn to Tampa taking on Philly. Tampa's on a team, good team, playoff-bound team, 2-game losing streak. They're on the road taking on the Flyers. It was just announced that Nikita Kucherov is not playing for Tampa tonight. So I like Braden Point for a goal sitting at plus 175. Great market for him. They need to bounce back. It's an awesome matchup going up against the Flyers, who are bottom 6 in the league over the last 2 weeks, allowing over 3 goals per 60 minutes in 5v5 situations. So I love good teams that need to bounce back, and a player like Point, proven 40-goal scorer, that needs to step up with Kucherov out.
All right, a lot of good stuff there. One thing, the Blackhawks were shut out for, and I think I have this right, the first time all season against Colorado, now playing San Jose. Look, neither team is great, but perhaps a team total on the Chicago side worth the attention there if you are a bounce-back merchant like myself. We have some big NBA stuff that we will get into. Oklahoma City, new title favorite. The San Antonio Spurs have shut down De'Aaron Fox now on top of already losing Victor Wembanyama for the season, what it all means for San Antonio. But with Tom here, I want to go to the National Football League and just kind of check in on some of the big stories. And one of the things, Tom, that I think has maybe been under-discussed in some circles, maybe I'm wrong, has kind of been the Eagles' offseason. It's like we knew they were going to lose guys. I don't know if we knew they weren't going to also bring in any new players, unless, Hunter Bryant's got people revved up and rearing to go. The reality is, whether it was unrealistic or not, Eagle faithful thought this offseason could result in Myles Garrett walking through that door. Again, it's mostly been nobody of note walking through that door new. There's guys returning. This is the Super Bowl champion and the Super Bowl favorite. I'm curious what you think about the Eagles offseason right now.
Well, since you're the most unbiased man in sports media, I'll keep this very simple. What is it? They have how many picks over the next 2 years?
20.
20 picks, right? So my initial takeaway is how he's done this. Let's not, like, the chips are on the table, like, don't touch the money kind of thing. It's like when you're playing blackjack or craps, like, you don't touch the money. You're not going to add more to it. You're on a hot streak. Let things happen. He's done a great job at drafting players, bringing players in, whatever it might be, and not some big splashy free agents like we would Saquon last year, but they've done a great job at drafting players, Jalen Carter and whatnot. Let the process play out. I know the Eagles fans want to see these big splashy additions just to like reinforce the arsenal, but things are working. So I'm not concerned as someone that likes to back the Eagles just because I think there's always value on them, always value on a ton of player props. I think you should let the process play out.
Yeah, look, I think it's totally fair, and you are mostly right to acknowledge I'm the most unbiased man in the history of sports media, which is why I didn't bring this up due to Eagle fandom. I think it is noteworthy that the Super Bowl favorite right now, you look at the offseason, you go, hey, Zach Bond's back, right? But there hasn't. Everybody else has kind of done something, it feels like, right? The Chiefs brought in, a new left tackle, right? The 49ers have been cutting a lot of people, but Detroit's trying to make some moves out there.
Here's the question, though. I think that this free agency class was okay. It wasn't overwhelmingly great. But what would you want to see? Outside of Myles Garrett, where would the improvements need to be? They don't need to bring in a new offensive lineman. Their defense is great. Could they make some additions? Can they do this? Like, the answer is, or the question is, what would you want to see them do?
I think if you're somebody who, let's say, bet an Eagles Super Bowl ticket right after the game, right, and you're trying to evaluate it, there has to be you go, all right, what do they now not have that they had last year? And I think the answer would be a veteran presence. I think that can be important for teams, right? I don't think we still have any word as to whether or not Brandon Graham will or will not retire on the defensive side of the football. Slay out, Bradbury out, right? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson out. These are every single person isolated. You can go, that makes sense. Milton Williams, you knew he was gone. Josh Sweat, you knew he was gone. They've lost 7 guys who you know from the defensive side of the football. They're the best defense in the National Football League. Is that going to be the case? You know this, Tom. Very hard to replicate best defense in the NFL year after year. You can stay pretty good, but the Eagles' defense was in another class last season.
Yeah, I would expect them to be not as good, just natural regression, getting players leaving. You could probably pencil them in for top 7, I want to say. Not set in stone, but like a top 7 kind of group. I think that will be reinforced in the draft very clearly. I think that's where their focus will be.
Yeah, I think it's well said. Tom, always good to check in. We will do it again soon. Back with you right here on SportsGrid.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions live on this Thursday night. Kevin Walsh with you here on SportsGrid. And I want to talk about what is some very big betting news, which is that we have a new favorite across the market to win the NBA Finals. Entering this season up until yesterday, the defending champs were slated as the favorite, the Boston Celtics. That is how the NBA works. You earn that spot. And Boston's gap last year was substantial throughout the regular season. In the East, they were not pushed And by the time the Mavericks got to the finals, it was a very bad matchup for Dallas. Boston extended and found themselves winners of the NBA championship. And Oklahoma City yesterday goes into Boston as only a 2.5-point dog without Jalen Williams. Yes, Boston, of course, without Kristaps Porzingis, and win that game 118-112. SGA with 34 points, 5 boards, and 7 assists. A 23-15 game out of Chet Holmgren. And Oklahoma City has moved the market. And I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's the right decision. Firstly, OKC isn't a surprise. OKC is not coming from anywhere, coming from nowhere. You knew Oklahoma City was going to be very good. They began the season as clear favorites in the Western Conference. Last year's number 1 seed eliminated in round number 2, you knew would be a contender just based on last year's accomplishments, expected improvement from the young core that they have, and then on top of that, making additions like Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso. You now look at these teams and where they sit. And if I told you that they were going to play one another in the NBA Finals on a neutral court, I think it would largely come out as a pick. I think you get some people arguing Oklahoma City as a favorite because they're better. They're just better. Check the numbers, check the box scores. They are better. Some would argue Boston as a favorite because of the pedigree. They are the defending champs. I think it would come out as a pick. On a neutral, Oklahoma City, if they meet the Boston Celtics in the finals, will have home court advantage. So you check that box for OKC. That if these teams meet, OKC will be favored. You then go and judge, well, who is more likely to be in the finals? And it's Oklahoma City. There's depth in the West. But OKC is right now in a race with the Eastern Conference leading Cleveland Cavaliers for the best record in basketball. Boston is not going to have home court advantage if they play the Cavs in the conference finals. So, which of those two teams is more likely to make the finals? OKC checks that box as well. Where OKC would lose out, I think, to Boston, is of those two teams, who is more likely to make the conference finals, I would say Boston. Cleveland and Boston have separated from the rest of the East. The Knicks have been a wild disappointment. It is tough to tell how the seeding is going to work right now within the Western Conference between the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Warriors. All could land somewhere between 2 and 6 is how it feels at this moment. And while the Thunder, of course, will be favored over any of those teams, probably not by the gap, the Celtics will be favored over the Knicks. But OKC leading in those categories has played a big part. There is one other element, though. And it's a not heavily discussed thing right now, but it's not nothing. Boston isn't as good as they are supposed to be. And it's not because of some title hangover, because I had to listen about the summer of disrespect. Tatum didn't get Finals MVP or get to play enough minutes on Team USA. Jaylen Brown wasn't even invited to Team USA. 3 consecutive years entering this season, Boston had the best net rating in basketball. They are not top 2. It's reflected throughout all of the numbers. They have been the class of this league for 3 straight years, and they aren't this season, and it's why OKC should be, as they now are, the favorites to win the NBA championship. Quick break. We're right back here. It is Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid. We'll be right back.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. You're not good enough defensively? Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live here on SportsGrid, it is game time decisions. A lot happening right now in the college basketball world. NBA slate's going to get underway. Do not forget some of the picks that we've already put on the board for tonight. I'll re-rack them just in case you're tuning in. We're live right now with Iowa, plus 10.5. Upcoming Norchad Omier over 14.5 points. We're going to late night lay Arizona minus 2.5 against Kansas. In the NBA, Bucks Lakers over 224, and then Matas Puzelis for the Chicago Bulls over 13.5 points. That's the basketball. The hockey's going to start. Oh, and by the way, a fantastic little golf tournament just happens to be going on right now. To help us talk about that is Brady Cannon. But not just one golf tournament. Well, for now, but in about 5 or so hours, that will change. Brady, you're always involved with the Live Golf Tournament. Tell us what you've got coming up and kind of how you broke that tournament down.
Yeah, it's Live Singapore, and, hoping to keep it rolling here. Carver and I both hit Sergio Garcia last week for Live Hong Kong, and they stay out in the Far East, Singapore this time. We've seen this golf course before called Sentosa. And it's quite interesting. When I dove into this handicap last year, I found so many similarities to, guess where? TPC Sawgrass, where they're, of course, playing the Players' Championship right now. In 2020, Matt Kuchar won here. This has a long time been a course on the European Tour. Sergio Garcia won in 2018. Adam Scott 3 times, 2010, 2006, 2005. Ian Poulter in 2009. And Cam Smith was the runner-up last year in 2024. Poulter's been runner-up at the Players' Championship twice. All those other guys are Players' Championship champions. So the connection there with this golf course in Singapore is pretty wild. So I landed on Paul Casey, who's had very good success when he was a part of the PGA Tour at the Players' Championship. You know, he's a ball striker type guy, accurate off the tee. The current form seems to be good. He finished 5th last week in Hong Kong. His last 2 trips to Sawgrass as a part of the PGA Tour, he finished 3rd and 5th at the Players' Championship. So I took a stab with Casey at 30-1, and then I went with a couple of bombers, Dean Burmester at 20-1, who I think might be the very best player on the Live circuit right now. He finished runner-up to Sergio last week. He is 1st on the tour in birdies, 7th in greens and regulation, 6th in driving distance, and 9th in putting. And then a little bit of a bomb here. Another guy that's been playing well, Peter Uihlein, at 45-1, second to Burmester in driving distance, 9th in putting, and 11th in birdies. So we'll see if we can make it 2 in a row. Paul Casey, Dean Burmester, and Peter Uihlein. That one tips off at about 9:15 Eastern time tonight in Singapore.
All right, fantastic. Again, Brady helping us there with the options that you can find for the Live Golf Tournament that will be coming up. Right now, the Players' Championship is live, and Scottie Scheffler is still the favorite. I got to say, Brady, maybe you'll disagree. It's close. I'm surprised it's not Rory. I would think the 2-shot lead on Scottie, plus only being 1 shot off the actual lead right now, would have put Rory at least the same odds as Scottie Scheffler. Maybe I'm overreacting, though, to just 18 holes.
No, I don't think you are. I mean, it just goes to show the premium. Scottie's price right now is less than it was prior to teeing off, which is pretty crazy. I mean, he's 3 shots off the lead. I know he's in good position, but the fact that, I would think his price would be the same, which was in the neighborhood of 5-1. He's at 4-1. He's in a pretty good spot, in my opinion. He's 38th in strokes gained off the tee, 12th on approach, which is really good, 22nd in greens and regulation, but 90th in putting. Was awful with the flat stick today. And we know that, Scottie, is not the greatest putter in the world, but if he can be just a little bit better than that, then he is absolutely going to be right there. Now, Rory kind of has a little bit of a scary resume, in my opinion. He was 3rd on approach, spot on with the irons today, spot on with the putter, 9th in putting. But driving accuracy, Kevin, almost dead last in the field, 140th. Wow. He hit 4 of 14 fairways, did Rory McIlroy. Strokes gained off the tee, 79th. So, the irons look great, the putter looks great, but boy, he better figure out that driver, because if he spends his whole week in the rough, he's going nowhere. JJ Spawn was a guy I am on pre-tournament that I liked how he did today. Minwoo Lee, who I was on last week, chose this week to get off to a great start. And then Morikawa, another guy I'm on pre-tournament, I thought got off to a pretty good start today. The same old song and dance with him. Couldn't make a putt last week, couldn't make a putt today either.
So then, Brady, I asked the question while knowing for you a reinvestment wouldn't likely come until much later on in this tournament. But when we look at the outright market, is anyone kind of jumping off the board? Whether it be Ludwig's 33-1 or Ricky Fowler 40-1, or maybe someone a little closer towards the top.
Yeah, I looked at Fowler. Not a bad round. His numbers are pretty good. Oberg is, I don't want to get involved with him. He's number 1 in this field right now, no surprise, for strokes gained off the tee. The guy's just a monster with the driver in his hand. But he was like 100th and something on approach. He was not good with the irons at all, around the greens, the putter. I mean, once he got it into the fairway off the tee, he was a mess there on in. So that's not really a good recipe going forward. Scottie looks like a real threat, Kevin. It's just that price. I mean, I was thinking he might be 6-1. I thought he might be higher than he was pre-tournament. The fact that he's lower is a real turnoff, because I do believe he is set up. The way his game's going right now, he's set up to improve. And like you said, only 3 shots off the lead. Rory, I don't like the way his game sits right now. Aaron Rye is another one of my guys pre-tournament, but number 1 in this field in putting, and everything else was a bit haphazard. I think JJ Spawn is a decent shot right now. And if you're looking for a guy a little bit further down the board, I don't think Morikawa is an awful play right now.
Let me just ask you.
And again, Kev, you know how it is. 18 holes in the books. I got to see 36 before I get involved. That just an initial impression, but I got to probably see another day of golf before we go forward.
Makes sense. And we only have Brady for a little bit. I'll close on this. Did Victor Hovland forget how to golf? What's going on with this guy?
He shot a Jerry Rice today, flash 80. Dead last in this field is Victor Hovland, and the struggles continue for this guy. It's a total shame. Now, this type of thing, this golf course will bring out the worst in people. I mean, there's plenty of guys out there that shot big numbers. This golf course will do that to people, but it just seems to be a regular happening with Victor Hovland. And also, by the way, Max Homa, who shot 79 today. Homa is almost struggling more so than Hovland.
Yeah.
Homa was contending at the Masters last year, almost been exactly 12 months from now. And after he came close at the Masters, it never really seemed like he did much again and really has fallen off a cliff. The best I can say about Hovland is he's been inconsistent, but today was certainly the low point where we've seen him get to a few times in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's odd for him to close out how he did 2 years ago at his age.
Yeah.
And last year never felt right. And now he entered this on consecutive missed cuts. And this is not looking much better. Brady, we appreciate it. As always, Dane Martinez joins the show next.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Meltdown on the Mac. I don't know what's going on with Iona. Don't like it. Don't like what I'm seeing. Boise State slowing down. I need something to pick me up. Good thing. Dane Martinez here with us on a Thursday night. Dane, always good to have you stop by GameTime Decisions. We will get into the late NBA slate, but New York Jets made a big move earlier this week, bringing in Justin Fields, a move that seemingly divided the fan base a touch. Where did you land on the Jets bringing in the former Steeler and Bear quarterback?
Yeah, I absolutely love it, Kev. Let me tell you something. First of all, with the Steelers, he went 4-2. He had 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's been developing as a passer every year, going with his completion percentage up from 59 to 61 to 64 to 66% last year. He actually had a better record with the Steelers than Russell Wilson ultimately had last year. And here's the other thing that I don't think people are talking about, okay? Aaron Glenn, the new head coach, was the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, right? Kev, let me give you Justin Fields' stats in 2022 and 2023 against Aaron Glenn's Detroit Lions. Are you ready for this, Kev? In 2022, in 2 games against Aaron Glenn's Detroit Lions, 1 game, Justin Fields ran 13 times for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. The other time, 10 times for 132 yards. The next year in 2023, 1 game against Aaron Glenn's Detroit Lions defense, 18 times for 104 yards. The next time, 12 times for 58 yards and the tud. Aaron Glenn knew more than most defensive minds in the NFL how hard it was to prepare for the dual threat quarterback, specifically Justin Fields. And by the way, at Ohio State, who was Justin Fields' number 1 wide receiver? Oh yeah, Kev, Garrett Wilson is the name of his number 1 wide receiver, where they combined for about 1,100 yards, and Fields went 20-2 for the Buckeyes. There is more room in the tank. He is only 26 years old, and quite frankly, $20 million a year for a starting quarterback in the NFL is on budget, in my opinion. Aaron Glenn, Darren Mosey, all of these signings that they have been making are guys in their mid-20s that were top 3-round draft picks that have room in the tank to grow. Aaron Glenn is getting young dudes together, getting his coaching staff to develop these guys, building a culture the same way he saw Dan Campbell do in Detroit.
Yeah, I think for me, it sounds that you are on the very optimistic side of Justin Fields, which I think is totally fine. I think that that side exists. For me, it's that either way it plays out, this works. All of the Jets' options, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, it was too Rodgers. It was too similar. It didn't fit. And where they're drafting is a kind of no man's land, where if a quarterback is good enough for them to take at 7, he probably shouldn't be on the board. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing was a little off there. If everything that you just said plays out, if Aaron Glenn deploys him like he's a Navy quarterback, great. If instead of it happening,
your boy Jalen Hurts, Kev, he could become your boy. And guess what? To your point, if they're wrong and he defecates the mattress, then they play in the 2026 draft class. And that's a better draft class, to be honest, right? But this is a 2-year chance for him to go ahead, grab the brass ring at value cost. And if it doesn't work, so what? It's okay. It is a low risk, high reward move.
Yeah, and that is the thing where, look, perception's changing a little bit around the league. It has to. Darnold was a lost cause, and then he just got paid. Geno was out of the league and then got paid. So it's, again, instead of it happening to the Jets, maybe it can happen for the Jets, where someone lands somewhere else and has some success. The former Jet quarterback is without a team, but not without options. I don't know. Maybe he's going to, I don't know, do an off-season show. Hot take. It'd be awesome, and he should. But we don't have to dive into that idea. I would love to see it, though. But I'm just saying, Hard Knocks is struggling for content. Let's follow Rodgers around the ayahuasca trip, and instead of the Netflix version, we'll do the HBO version. I think it'd be a little realer. What do you think happens? I feel like this is going to go on so wrong, and your initial thought, which maybe hasn't changed, I think was Rodgers to the Steelers, is just going to end up correct, and he's going to go to the Steelers.
Yeah, so listen, as these kind of musical chairs get filled, right? I did say this to you last time, Kev. I still think it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, I still think ultimately it is Pittsburgh. If it is not Pittsburgh, okay, he goes and talks to a shaman and fades away. You see him like wrapped in a shroud and on the beach, right? That's another option. Or the only other places I can think, and these are long shots in my opinion, Kev, but I'll throw them out there for you. One is if the Minnesota Vikings don't think J.J. McCarthy is ready or healthy and he follows the Brett Favre path. The other, which I don't necessarily think would happen, but for some reason, Kev, the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy have yet to reach an agreement. If they stall on some level, right, then all of a sudden you have another California real-life contender option, and I think that could be plausible as well. But I think it's Pittsburgh, then walking away, then a small chance of Minnesota or San Fran.
Yeah, I think for Rodgers, and I think it's a great breakdown, I think for Rodgers right now, he's well aware of what his options are. He wishes he had other options. I think that's kind of what it boils down to for him. I think the Minnesota thing, he probably doesn't want the exact same Favre thing. I really think that is holding him up. I think because if the options are the Giants, the Steelers, and the Vikings in terms of what's currently on the table, it is easily Minnesota. Just because of the offense. Pittsburgh, maybe you could say, is more complete. I'd probably agree with you. I know they made the DK move. I just think there's a level of funk around Pittsburgh right now. And I'll add this. And I know people are thinking I'm being harder on the kid. I don't care. The Vikings do not like J.J. McCarthy that much. They don't. You know when a team loves a quarterback, and it looks nothing like this. When Daniel Jones signed with the Colts, Dane, they tweeted out, well, they will likely have J.J. McCarthy as the star. Likely? They picked him 7th. How about definitely? What is happening? Oh, no, we missed out on the... Like, what is going on? So, again, that is where I am at on that. We are running up against the break here. Listen, I don't know, Boise State's getting hot. We might keep Dane around all night. I don't know, at least until we get 66 points on the board. We'll be right back with you and Dane next.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And, of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor. But you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, back on Game Time Decisions. We may get back to the NFL, but since we have Dane with us here and he's loaded up on the Warriors-Kings game, let's find out where that action is, and then again we can circle back. And again, we'll delay. Who just missed that free throw? Wrong. Come on. It's all right. A lot of time left here. Talk to me, Dane. Warriors-Kings. No Sabonis tonight. I wonder how much, if at all, that changes things for you.
It hasn't, because he's been out for like the last week, right, with that hamstring. So he's not back, and that is okay. I'm looking at some three-point shooters on the Sacramento side. I'm fading one, and I'm riding the other. We're going under for Malik Monk on his 2.5 3-pointers, okay? He averages 2.2 a game. He's only a 32% three-point shooter, though, okay? And he's had 5 or fewer attempts in 4 of his last 6 games. Do the math. When you shoot less than a third are going in, and you're putting up 5 or fewer, you ain't hitting 3 in a game, okay? The Warriors also have decent defense. They're 8th in the NBA, giving up only 111 points a game, giving up only 13 threes a game, okay? So I'm under on Malik Monk, but I'm over on Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine, I think, has really found his stride here with the Sacramento Kings. He hits 3 a game. We're also going over 2.5. And I just told you Monk was 32% from beyond the arc. Well, Zach LaVine is 43.7% from beyond the arc. He had 30 or more points in 2 of his last 3 games. And Kev, in 2 of his last 3 games, he's had 22 shots or more, okay? Volume is there. LaVine is kind of feeling himself in his new role there with Sacramento. On the other side, give me over Moses Moody, 10.5 points. You can get this at 10.5 or at 11.5. Przimski is still out with that back, so Moses Moody, I think, gets a little bit of more minutes. He's gone over in his last 2 games, and he's had 10 or more points, Moody has, in 11 of his last 13. I know the number is 10.5, and if you get caught by the hook, like Goody Mob says, I'm sorry for this one, but I do think Moses Moody will go over his points. And by the way, on February 21st, when they played Sacramento, Moody had 22.
I will also just throw out, because it was something I was tracking at the time, and you reminded me, LaVine started ice cold from 3 with Sacramento, and then was red hot. 2 bad games in a row. Again, if you know me, that's all I ever needed. Too good of a player for that to stick around, so that makes all the sense in the world. I'm just curious, Dane, I know that it's the Kings-Warriors on your card. I'm curious if you poked around Lakers-Bucks at all. So many absences. I mean, LeBron being out, understandably, is the headline, but it is covering that the Lakers are missing 3 of 5 starters, which is another way to try and put that into perspective. I played the over in the game. We had Tom Vecchio on earlier. He's on the under. I kind of get both ends of that coin right now, but it's a tricky game with all the absences.
It is. I would be with you on the over in the game, Kev, and you mentioned it. Without 3 starters, I think a week or 2 ago, I told you that I thought the Lakers were playing a lot better, and LeBron specifically was more inspired, had more of an energy with Luka being on the ball. It kind of freed him up, and I think that that was a big part of what J.J. Redick has been doing with them defensively, so I would actually be with you, go over the number, and also the numbers dropped a little bit, I think, from 226 down to 225, so you get a little bit of a discount going over.
Fantastic. We can always use a little bit of a discount. Dane, I'm going to throw this at you here because I think it's a big story, and it's nothing to do with who I root for, because it's not like it's some positive story. The Eagles' offseason has just been a bunch of thank you posts on Twitter. They are the Super Bowl favorites and defending champs. Worrisome at all in your eyes?
No, not really. I saw Kenneth Gainwell also going over to Pittsburgh, right?
Sure.
Like they're bringing A.J. Dillon in to be the backup to Saquon. It's not really worrisome to me because really they got Hurts, they got Barkley, they got A.J. Brown, they got Devontae Smith, and that's really all they're going to need. They put up 40-plus on these guys, and they still have all those young Georgia Bulldogs on defense. So I still really believe that them, Detroit. Watch out for these Los Angeles Rams, though. Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams with Matthew Stafford slinging the rock to these guys. I actually think Adams is an upgrade from Kupp in the NFC West for the Los Angeles Rams. I think they need to be feared as well.
I saw today, apparently, the rumbling is Cooper Kupp's asking price is not realistic, which is why he is still looking for a team right now. Do you have one in mind? I'll throw it to you quickly.
Yeah, I'd go to the Pacific Northwest. They let go of Lockett. They lost Metcalf. You bring in Sam Darnold. There's no way Darnold can replicate what he does in Minnesota with only JSN. I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up with Seattle.
And I heard he wants to stay west. Dane, appreciate it as always. We'll take a quick break. We're back with you here on Game Time Decisions.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we're back with you right here on SportsGrid. I'm going to be honest with you, folks. San Diego State, ruining my life. Call it like I see it. If you're down 7 and you already struggle to score and you come down and pull a transition 3, what you shouldn't do is wait 25 seconds to foul and let the clock go under a minute. And they're still not fouling. Oh, this is the worst team in college. Foul! What am I seeing? Oh, they're playing it out. There's a 9-point play on that thing somewhere, and run! Ah! Doesn't make it. Won't even matter. Won't even matter. What an app. If the Aztecs are in the tournament, I'll just tell you this. I already capped the game. Terrible. Terrible. Woof. From one coach who's annoyed me.
What?
To another who has not. Look at that, friendly, but he didn't think it was going to be friendly. He didn't think it was going to be friendly. Coach James Young, want to rope it, don't get caught looking here. It's over here. Help. JY, before we get to the college, are you on anything in Lakers-Bucks coming up?
Yeah, I'm on the Bucks -7 tonight. I just, this may be the Bucks are trying to get this number 4 seed because I think it's going to be them and the Pacers in the first round of playoffs unless the Knicks slip up. So I did like the Bucks -1 points. I'm just trying to think of anything else is tipping off right now that I should be telling everybody about. I want
Pistons Wizards is already in the mix.
Yeah, 13.5. I took the Pistons, and I took Cade Cunningham over 14.5 rebounds plus assists.
All right, so some love for Cade there. Again, for everybody, I'm on the over in Bucks Lakers. Let's try and figure out, Coach, the college card for you. I don't think anything is coming up right around the corner, but tell me, what are you on live pregame and kind of, people can assess maybe a jump-in spot. What are you looking at right now?
I laid the points 10.5 by Illinois versus Iowa, 4-point game at the break. So we'll have to see what that live number is. So you'll have to, maybe someone can let us know. The other one I was on, and I'm making sure I'm seeing this right. I was on Baylor's team total over 73.5. Now, I looked at this game and thought, I'm not Baylor, Texas Tech's team total over 73.5. I thought that Baylor's defense is not as good as people think. I kind of deep dove into KenPom and looked at particularly the fact that Texas Tech shoots the ball extremely well from three. Baylor struggles to defend the three-point line. Of course, what's happened? Texas Tech, 11 of 16 from three in the first half. Oh, my goodness. Scott Drew, can you play some defense? But I took over 73.5 in Texas Tech in the overall team total, which looks pretty good with 40. I mean, am I seeing this right? 40 points in the first half with 6 minutes left to go. Is that right?
Yeah, right now you have a live game total of 167.5, and it's not even close to the live Illinois-Iowa total, which checks in at 182.5 right now. JY, you and I are on opposite sides of that game. I took Iowa's 10.5. I think you laid it. So we'll see. Let me ask you this, though, just in general. You've been in this spot before. How much of an advantage or disadvantage does someone have an advantage versus playing a game the day before or potentially maybe being more rested?
It all depends on where the site is, right? You looked at earlier St. John's, they play there. You know, Butler could have played 50 games at MSG. St. John's going to have the advantage. We talked about like the MAC tournament. MAC tournament, usually the team that usually it's the quarterfinals, I think, today. So any team that didn't play yesterday, maybe go first half under in the first half because of the fact of sight lines. So to me, it really depends on matchups, Kevin. I look at things a little bit differently as a coach. And I'm kind of shocked at some of these scores. We can get to some of the stuff that happened earlier today, but to me, it's all about matchups. It's about where you play teams, where are you playing? How does it compare to your arena? A lot of that stuff makes sense for me as a coach, even in warmups, watching my guys shoot.
And I'm sure, right? Okay, this time I'm not bringing up Iona as a bit, but where they now play the MAC tournament, Boardwalk Hall, it's very the sight lines, JY. I mean, for some of those places, you'd rather play a day, try and get accustomed to, a concert stage, being the backdrop like it is again in Atlantic City.
Right, and just so people understand what Kevin and I are talking about, Boardwalk Hall, the way they set it up, they don't go closer to the stage. They literally go in the dead center. So you have, I'm going to say, Kevin, you'll agree with me, 75, 80 feet behind the basket to where you get, and maybe even 100 feet to where you get to the stage. So, and then you have to remember, folks, in the MAC tournament, okay, just in case people don't notice, you don't get to shoot around there the day of. They send you to a high school. So if you're looking at the MAC tournament, maybe look at, and I can't see because I'm in Jersey, Marist team total under. Okay. Because Mount St. Mary's, I do believe played yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So they have an advantage. So that's something you have to look at is sight lines, right, and stuff like that, because it's a big difference for a player when you're shooting when the backdrop is 100 feet away as opposed to, 25 feet away, and you have stands going up. There's no stands going up behind the basket at the MAC. It's it's 4 or 5 rows, and that's just for the band.
Yeah, again, it's a very unique setup. It is unfortunate for those who want to get in the mix, because with the games here in Jersey now, you really can't get in the mix. But if you're Iona, you're in the mix right now. Whoa, storming back these Gales. Let me tell you, we like what we're seeing there. And
quickly, Kevin, both Mount St. Mary's and I do believe Marist, both teams, if I'm just pulling up really quickly, neither team has played in the MAC tournament yet. So this is both of their first games. So that game, if you're out of Jersey, look under.
126.5 total, though. Very low number, but I can, obviously we can at least find the number for people. Coach is right. Look, a lot happened earlier in the day. The biggest thing, the Cooper flag news, and we're going to get into that and what that potentially means for Duke and We're also going to preview tonight's slate. I mentioned JY and I are head-to-head in a spot that is live. We're head-to-head a spot later tonight. Not that spot. Not that spot. That other spot, we are seeing it the same. JY, that other spot.
It's Kings, Arizona. And we're on the other sides of Karen.
So we will get into all of those. Coach also has a couple of spots on the NBA card that we can get into, and I'll do this quickly because we're going to run up against the break. You can call me jaded, but every single thing that has happened with the Spurs since they have traded for De'Aaron Fox, as that news came out that his season is over, has only confirmed my feeling more and more and more that they should have not traded for De'Aaron Fox. This is a team that had all the time in the world at minimum throughout this year, with Victor Wembanyama in his sophomore season and the Rookie of the Year favorite Stephon Castle, and they opted to rush in De'Aaron Fox, and Castle's having this fantastic season, and now you think, okay, well, we need him to bend to Fox as opposed to getting that backcourt pairing correct. Now Fox isn't even out there playing, so you're not getting those reps. Wemby's not played, so you're not getting those reps. They should have a clean slate this offseason, and they don't, and it's a massive mistake. Kevin Walsh, Coach James Young, we're back with you on SportsGrid after this break.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, back with you right here on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh, Coach James Young. Game time decisions. JY, a lot for us to get into. Let's go through the rest of the card, and then we'll pull back from earlier today. Opposite sides for us on Arizona, Kansas. It's probably simple. Again, reasonable minds can disagree. I'm guessing, you'll tell me, you're buying in to Kansas and how they closed the year against Arizona. Even though I was on Kansas in the game and won the bet, am not. Am I right? What are you seeing here?
I'm buying in on a Kansas team that I think maybe is starting to figure it out right at the right time. Yes, they won by 7 at Fog Island, covered the spread. Short spread, Kansas getting the points. I think they find a way to steal. Either way, I think this is going to be a really, really tight game, but I took the points with the Jayhawks.
Okay. All right. So coaches on the Kansas in that spot. JY, what else do you have tonight for the college card?
I'm going to go with Kentucky minus the points tonight. I think, for them, this is Oklahoma is in a tough spot here. I think, though, the Kentucky fan base will travel to this game. Look, the fact that Kentucky lost the first game to Oklahoma, I think by 1, if I'm not mistaken. Mark Pope seems to get payback. And then, Kevin, you roped me in. I'm not saying they're winning the tournament.
Yeah.
But Villanova plus the 6.5. I think they got work to do. I think this is a game that, remember, they were up by 15 against UConn in Hartford in the second half and blew that game. I thought Kyle Neptune should have been fired that day, and I told people that. But they also beat UConn at Wells Fargo earlier in the year. So I think the best, honestly, he may not be the best prospect on the floor, but Big Eric Dixon's going to give Johnson problems tonight. And Kyle Neptune's going to ride that horse. Give me Villanova plus the points tonight.
Yeah, I looked at the Dixon props. For those that don't know, Villanova's my pick to win the Big East tournament at 15-1. The Dixon numbers are very high. I don't know if UConn will approach it with anybody but him, or, okay, let him get his, but let nobody else get theirs. We've seen them operate in both ways. In not necessarily against Dixon, but in other situations. Edey famously last year in the tournament. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, really quick, just because I'm just thinking about Villanova. I just checked the score, and I didn't even know that DePaul is up 11 right now on Creighton. It's minus 2.5 for Creighton, under 150. I think Creighton comes back. So if you're looking for a spot to jump in and take a team on a money line to win, Creighton should be able to take out DePaul, although DePaul shot the ball extremely well yesterday. I don't know if it carries over for another 40 minutes today.
All right, so some love for Creighton. I don't know. I'd rather see DePaul close that door.
For your bet. Oh, for your bet. For that bet. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Looks like everyone agrees. Let's go DePaul. Rooted in. JY, talk to me. NBA slate. I'm on Matas Buzelis tonight over the 13.5 points. I think you've got some action in that game as well.
Zelly, I'm going to go with the Bulls. Simply put, minus. I'm sorry, not in minus. I'm going to take them on the money line tonight. I know the Nets have been playing around and catching and playing teams. They have lost 8 out of 9. And I'm looking at Chicago saying, I get mad at them that they never just do what I want them to do, which is to just start over. I think they're trying to make a play here. If you look at it closely, there are only 2 games in the loss column, won 3 in a row. Miami's lost 5 in a row. They need to keep winning games. I'm going to go with the Bulls on a money line. Same game, Nick Claxton over 9.5 points. Simply put, I think he's hit it the last 3 times he's going against Chicago. That is just based off of Big Vucevic. Milwaukee minus a point. I talked about that. Moses Moody made threes over 1.5. You're playing against a team in Sacramento that's 26 and 3-pointers allowed. Last 4 times Moses Moody has played. Moses Moody, not Miles Moody, Kendrick Perkins, by the way. Moses Moody has gone over 1.5 made threes the last 4 times he's played Sacramento. Moody over 1.5 points, or I think if you want to go to his points prop at 11.5, I wouldn't be mad at you there either.
All right, so a couple of looks in that game. Again, I like Matas Buzelis' opportunities with. Let me see how they handled that starting lineup tonight in Chicago. Jones, White, Huerter, Buzelis, and Vooch there. Without Josh Giddey, you're going to see those opportunities, I think, come in for Matas Buzelis, so certainly something to keep an eye on. For anybody who bet the Norchad O'Meara prop, first half cash. One of those where it was so easy you get annoyed that it wasn't the one. It was good, but that's fantastic. That's as good as it gets there from Norchad O'Meara. And on top of it, Texas Tech is rolling. I feel very confident that Texas Tech will still beat the winner of Arizona, Kansas. Let me get this. Let me throw this your way, Coach. I know the matchup just got set today, so I don't know how much time you've had to think about it. Houston is going to get BYU okay, let's go 10 days ago. You would have thought over Iowa State, awesome. I'm curious what you think about a Houston-BYU game tomorrow with the way the Cougars are playing offense right now.
They're downright dangerous, and I'm curious to see what is going to be the props in regards to where they hang it, because Houston also gave up a bunch of points today to Colorado. So Houston's defense is not playing, at least in the tournament so far, and BYU's hot, and that's where it gets interesting. You stay hot, right? And BYU scoring a ton of points. I know that there was Gilbert was out for Iowa State, but still hanging up 96 on an Ossenberger team, that's a lot of points. I may be looking at the over in regards to BYU points tomorrow.
That's saying something. Anyone who's looking to take an over up against, and I understand, Houston's defense today didn't show up against Colorado. Coach, I think you would agree, though. Kelvin Sampson tomorrow. Tonight into tomorrow, we'll be talking exclusively about that side of the ball.
Oh, he didn't feed them. He didn't feed them boys. They got kale with no dressing. That's all they got to eat. They even take it off the stalk.
All right, we're going to talk about Cooper Flag, Game Time Decisions next here on SportsGrid.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And, of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor. But you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we're right here on SportsGrid. Just a reminder, actually double reminder. Saturday, 10 to noon, me, Coach, Lisi, betting above the rim college basketball today. Sunday, Coach and I in studio, Big Ten in-game live. Let's hope UCLA is in it. If you don't have that future, I hope your team's in it, unless it's my team in it. If I'm going against your team in it, listen, it's just going to be a war. After that, it'll be Coach and Ben, Bracket Central. Bracket's right around the corner. Can't wait. Love that. So keep that in mind. Live, right now, good start, Bucks Lakers. Not an amazing start. We're fine with it. Omir, walking through the window. Appreciate it, brother. Illinois, up 7 on Iowa. Both Coach and I are going to be watching that one until the final seconds, it looks like, to see who comes out on top. JY, though, the biggest thing that likely happened today in college basketball was the Cooper Flag injury. Nobody thinks he will play again in the ACC tournament. Even if he woke up tomorrow and was like, I truly feel better than I've ever felt, I don't think they would let him play.
Can't play him.
So I'm going to skip a bunch of steps. And I know you're going to say, because you're correct to, it depends if it's a UConn, Gonzaga, or if I tell you Duke is going to have to play the round of 32 game without Cooper Flag, do you think we will still be breaking down a Duke Sweet 16 game, which would be in 2 weeks from today, and you'd think he'd be back?
I would rest him through the round of 32, unless we get a crazy matchup like Gonzaga as an 8. Like, it's got to depend on the matchup. You should be able to get through the round of 16. I think the thing that people need to worry about and look at right now is the line is out for tomorrow, and they're still laying 8.5 to Carolina. Now, you're going to look at Carolina and say, well, Cooper Flag didn't score that much against them on Saturday night, but he did everything in that game, including played great defense, having 2 huge blocks in the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance that you should be looking at, right now, the plus 8.5 points to go ahead and get the job done, because at the end of the day, and here's where it gets interesting. I think this puts even more pressure on Carolina to win. Because if they would have lost a close game tomorrow with Cooper Flag, maybe they still find a way into the tournament because it's Carolina. But now that he's out, I don't think they have to lose it. I think they still have to win the game if they have a chance to get the NCAA tournament with Flag out of the lineup tomorrow. So maybe you take them on the money line and say maybe they just steal it outright.
Well, I'll say this. North Carolina is up against it because the SEC tournament has done them no favors.
No favors.
Arkansas beat South Carolina. Awesome game against Ole Miss. They're going to be fine. Texas goes out and beats A&M and Vanderbilt. They're probably going to be in. Okay, maybe I'm crazy then, JY. I don't know if North Carolina is in if they even beat Duke. They might need to just lock up the outright bid and win this whole thing. I'll say this as well to people. Sorry, Coach, but just because I'm on it, as somebody who has North Carolina to win this thing, I will not be hedging anything tomorrow against Duke. If they win that game, I will in the final. I am not going to go, oh, amazing. No. Clemson and Louisville will both be favored, rightfully so. Whichever one of those teams is in that game, I will be. Now, if it's not one of those teams, if SMU goes on a run, I might change my tune. I just wanted to make that clear, kind of, Coach. That's just where I'm at in that spot.
Yeah, I just think with Carolina, I think they got some help. San Diego State losing today, Indiana looking awful today. Did Boise win today? No,
Boise just beat San Diego State.
San Diego State. So I think they got a little bit of help here. So I think Carolina, with a win, I think they're in. The one to watch out for tonight is Villanova. If Villanova takes out, UConn, I think they go into this first 4 out. And if they catch a break, they could win another one tomorrow, maybe against Ball.
All right. Coach and I will see you Saturday. In-game live is next.